Hey, what's going on? It's King Kevin checking in. And recently I've been reading, of course, I'm always reading, as the king should, Marcus Garvey, which is called Life and Lessons, and Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. Now, I posted on my social media, which book am I going to read first? First book of the year that I'm going to finish reading. By the way, I was almost done with Dale Carnegie's book, How to Influence People and Win Friends, something like that. Very powerful book. Book's over 150 million copies worldwide. First published in 1936. The edition I have is the new edition. I believe it was 1980 something. His daughters or whoever those two ladies are, did a remake of the book. Very powerful book, because I understand I have to come with a different approach when I speak with people, so I want to read a book like that. But I couldn't help but go to my library, which y'all know I have a nice collection of books. I'm very, I won't say proud of my books, but I'm very glad and blessed that God blessed me with the know-how to read. And so I chose to read Up From Slavery first by Booker T. Washington. Those who don't know who Booker T. Washington is, definitely look him up. He's the man who started the Tuskegee Institute, and that took a lot of money, power, energy, focus, education to do such a thing, And he also was the one who wrote the Atlanta Compromise, which was about getting the black labor force together to work for the American system. You got the Carnegies again, just mentioned, Rockefellers, those individuals who owned the steel and oil of this country, and a couple other wealthy men and women of the United States, when the country is, going through the whole development stage, industrial age is what they call it. A lot of jobs were created because a lot of the slaves, Africans who were enslaved, I'd rather say it like that, had a lot of skills and knowledge in the labor force, a lot of trade, plumbers, carpenters, you name it, there were cooks, drivers, engineers. Like, they learned all these different trades on their own or while working for, the whole slavery system. But with Booker T. Washington, what strikes me the most about this young man is the fact that he wanted to learn how to read so bad, and his mom wanted him to read too. Now, you see, Booker T. Washington was born in slavery. As a matter of fact, he spent his first early 5-6 years of his life as a slave. So he was very well aware of the situation. He had to work at a young age. And his mom, he asked his mom, could she buy him a book? He didn't ask, can she go buy him, some toy, this or that. He asked his mom, can you buy me a book? I would love to learn how to read. So she bought him, somehow, she found a dictionary. So that's how he learned how, the alphabets. But he really didn't know how to put the words together, but he tried his best to learn how to do that. Another fascinating thing that I've read so far, I only got about the first 20 pages. I haven't really read too much. I've done a lot of research about him. I've read small biographies about him, but I've never actually read autobiography. So what he did once, which I found very fascinating, and as a young man, about the age of 7, 8 years old, he was working. He was working all his life, in plantations. All the boys working. He was on the slave fields before the Emancipation Proclamation signed by Lincoln. By the way, that, might have been the paperwork to have given the Africans their freedom, but it was actually, it allowed them to be able to fight to get their freedom. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we fought for our freedom. It wasn't something that we just got because the president felt sorry for us. As a matter of fact, Lincoln said if he can keep slavery and avoid the war, he will keep slavery. You know what I mean? So it wasn't something that he wanted to do. It's something that he knew that was inevitable. It was immoral, not just physically, but spiritually and especially financially, because now, 2015, we are still the black population is still the highest population as far as unemployment rates, around the country. Like, we are still enslaved. We're still living from check to check. We're still living from hand to mouth, the vast majority of us. And those of you who aren't, God bless you. You're very fortunate. And I just thought I might say that. But when he was working at a salt mine. I really don't know what salt miners do. Perhaps collect salt. I don't know. Minerals from the caves and the mines. But what he did was, he wanted to go to school. But he couldn't go to school because, night school that is, because the night school started at 9 o'clock. He gets off of work at 9 o'clock. You're talking about a young man who's working from 5 in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, up until 9 p.m. at night. They was grinding. And so what he did was, because every day he'd get to school late, off top. So the moment he gets off work is a moment school starts. He's late automatically. Plus, he had to walk several miles to get to school. So what he did was, he turned back the time of the job clock. Everybody was focused on this clock because this is how they clock their time, their hours, when to go to break, when to go to lunch, when to end. Everything was off this one big clock. I guess in the main office or main cabin of the mines. So he turned it back 30 minutes back, so to 8:30, and then he'll change it once he got off of work. You know what I mean? So he can get that extra 30 minutes to get to school on time. So I thought that was pretty ingenious. A young man don't want to go to school that bad, and you got to beg your kids to go to school. You gotta bribe them pretty much. You gotta blackmail them. You know what I mean? Whatever the case may be to get the kids to school. That's what parents are doing today. Well, back then, 19th century, this guy, he fought to go to school. So I guess you can tell that, I chose to read Booker T. Washington's book before the Marcus Garvey book. Other than the clear size, I really wanted to read into Booker T. Washington. A couple years ago, I did a Black History Month project, a presentation about the black authors that paved the way, for other authors such as myself. And this is actually one of my favorite workshops. I hope, to continue getting hired to give that lecture, different libraries or school. I love it. I'll do it for free if my time was free. But, I won't charge much. It just takes time to prepare for things like that, and energy. But anyway, in a nutshell, I'm going to finish this book. Stay tuned for the update about Up in Slavery, because I want to learn more about Mr. Booker T. Washington, one of the most humble men in America's history. Quick story I'm going to say right quick, and I'm sure he probably mentions it in his book. There was a time when he was walking from, let me rewind that story, let me say it again. There was a older white lady who had a bunch of logs in her yard, and she needed help. She was a single woman, affluent lifestyle or whatever, but she didn't have a man in her life, at least a man who was there who could help her with these logs. So she drives around, whether she was just coming from a store or church, wherever she was coming from, or work. She saw a black man dressed in a suit, and she asked him, "Hi, would you please help me with these logs? Because I really can't move them, and I really love your help." So the man agreed. She lived around the corner. He didn't get in her car. He said, "Okay, I'll follow your car, and I'll help." He walks there, takes off his suit, unbuttons his collar, takes off the bow tie. I'm assuming he had a bow tie on. That was back then. Bow ties was the style back then. Now it's coming back. So after the man fixes up the logs nice and neat the way she wants them, she offered him some money. And then he turned down the money. She said, "You're going to turn down the money? Okay. What's your name, sir?" He said, "My name is Booker T. Washington, president and founder of the Tuskegee Institute." And I was like, wow, you know what I mean? How many men, first of all, would even go out of their way to help a perfect stranger? You know what I mean, at a time when racial tension was very high. It wasn't as high, but it was high. A lot of lynchings were going on at that time. That would take off from their busy day to help someone, and for free. And then turn down the money on top of that. So, anyway, that's my little tidbit. Stay tuned for the next episode of The King's Corner. And you go to my website, learn more information about my favorite books. You know, there's KevinDorval.com, which is KevinDorrival.com. Or go to thecouragetobelieve.com. And, hey, pieces, deuces, and blessings to you. And don't forget, never, ever, ever, ever let go of your culture. Blessings.